this session, we are discussing very interesting the approach, and you will find, I hope that is you will appreciate, that is we have taken now certain contents on the basis of our history, and you will see that is the one of them, that is about the Chanakya and interpersonal dynamics, that is the how the Chanakya has gone for the his comments on the interpersonal dynamics. So, first we will talk about the introduction, then we will talk about the teaching of management and interpersonal dynamics, 7 pillars of successful business, 5 Chanakyas, the Aphorisms, strengthening strategies for the interpersonal relationships, that we will talking about. So, therefore, when we are talking about, that is the what is the dharma. So, Maharshi Vyas has told, that is the identifying what is dharma and in what context it becomes the dharma, that is from the India. The Confucius that produce ethically well cultivated men who would carry themselves with the gravity, speak correctly and demonstrate consummate integrity in all things. And therefore, in that case we find that is the when we are talking about that what is the Confucius approach towards dharma is, that is about the oneself, how oneself the represent him, and therefore, it is about the his gravity. So, what gravity he has, and definitely gravity, it is reflected by the emotional stability and the speak correctly. In that case, we will find that is the whenever we are talking or speaking something, then we are having the very appropriate and correct is pronunciations are there, and demonstrate the consummate integrity in all things, and therefore, in that case we will having that particular according to him, it is the dharma which is produced the ethically well cultivated men. Aristotle, the role that politics and the political community must play in bringing about the virtuous life in the citizenry, and therefore, according to the Aristotle, it is that is the how, that is the political parties, they are required to bring about the virtuous life in the citizens. The Chanakya says, economics, leadership, interpersonal skills and the psychology of humans. Therefore, in that case we will find that is it is becoming a very important, that is the whenever we are talking about the either kingdom or about your business empire, about your the departments or the sections or the workplaces, and then it becomes very important the role of the economics, because whenever you are running a business, then definitely that economy has to play a very great role, and that will affect your business. Not only that, but how is your leadership style? If your leadership style is not appropriate, then in that case you cannot lead, because a king cannot be without kingdom. So, if you want a kingdom, then definitely there must be followers, and if there are followers, then there is a leader. And then Chanakya has mentioned, that is the interpersonal skills. So, what type of the skills the individual is having, and then developing those interpersonal skills, that will decide about the psychology of humans, that is also that will have the success and failures in the case of the nation or in the case of the business even. Vishnu Sharma, for the man to develop niti, social ethics, prudent behavior and shrewdness in their pursuit of the earth and the work on the social satire, and therefore, it is that is a niti. So, there it is the defined, that is the how there can be the behavior in their pursuit of the earth. So, therefore, in that case if you are into the business, then what is your the business strategies, and therefore, and then what is the its impact on the society. So, that has been defined by the Vishnu Sharma. Then the Manu. The text dedicates 1034 verses, the largest portion, on laws for and expected virtues of the Brahmins, and 971 verses for the Kshatriyas, the statement of rules for the Vaishyas, the merchant class, and the Shudras, the artisans and the working class in the text is extraordinarily brief. And therefore, this is the text dedications of the 1034 verses is there. Narayana, it incorporates maxims, worldly wisdom and morals on the political affairs in a simple and elegant language. And therefore, by this it is the how the your wisdom and morals that will decide among the how you are representing yourself on the basis of the political affairs and in the elegant language is there. So, on the basis of these different philosophies and the definitions, now the question arises that what are the teaching of management and interpersonal skills. The well educated Indian, like their counterpart in the western and now also inward, is under the implicit impression that such systematic thinking of management started only in the 20th century. However, given the complexity of the managing a kingdom or a country, it would not be surprising if treatises or management were written in the ancient past also. In fact, a search for such management literature in India and in the world yields the fruitful results are there. Now, when we are talking about these 7 pillars of successful business, so it is the Swami, that is the king, Amatya, the manager, then the Janpad, your market, then the Durga, infrastructure, then the Kosh, that is the finance, then the Dand, your team, and then the Mitra, that is your mentor. Now, we will see one by one. Now, in that case 5 Chanakya's aphorisms are the Sukhasya Moolam Dharma, the basis of happiness is righteous, that is the ethics is there. So, whenever we are having that particular happiness, that now in the case of that is how the one can be happy, and that is about the Sukhasya Moolam Dharma is there, and therefore, following the ethics is there. Now, we have understood that is the always when we are talking about the happiness comes with the 2 factors, that is the positive affect and negative affect. Whenever we are talking about the positive affect, and that is the righteous behavior ethics. Whenever we are taking any decision in decision making process, there should not be any favoritism, and when we are having as such type of the decision making process, because we are ethical, we are not unethical. So, when we are no biased, we have the interest of the land in our mind, that is we are all of us are working for this nation and that is our dharma, then definitely that type of the ethical behavior will bring the honesty, integrity. And when there will be the such honesty and integrity is there, then definitely at that workplace the people will be working like a team. Then second is then Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. So, happiness comes through the dharma, dharmasya moolam is artha. So, therefore, the basis of righteousness is the resources. So, therefore, when you are talking about that is the happiness, but the happiness is coming to the righteous behavior. and this righteousness is coming through the kingdom resources. So, therefore, this dharmasya moolam de artha, it means that is the, if this is righteousness, then in that case if this will come through only with the resources. I have spoken in my earlier session, that is the manager, the organization that having the man, machine, material, money, method and minutes. Now, these resources, the basis of the righteous is the resources is there. When you are having the that type of the righteous resources, where the people, those who are working with you, they are ethical. The technology which you are using, that is the latest one. The material which you are using is the high class. The money that you are having, the enough money for your businesses. Then the methods which you are using, the different methods which you are using, those methods are the becoming a very appropriate, and they definitely the time, that is the minutes which you are using. Now, in this case, when for the righteous behavior you have the right type of the resources, then definitely you will be following, that is the dharma and creating the artha. But in the case of the artha, that is the rajyam, and that is the basis of resources is the organization. So, arthasya moolam rajyam, and therefore, in that case, that is the whatever the earning you are profit you are having, the basis for that is about the rajyam is there. And rajyam's moolam, that is the indriya jaya, and therefore, it is the conquering the senses, and therefore, it is becoming very important that the raja, he is having the control, right. However, that how he is having that the indriya jaya. Indriya jaya means that is the control or rajyam rooted in the conquering the senses. So, when we are having the senses, for example, when you are having the smell, taste, the sightness, the eyes, the skin, means that is your nose, tongue, ear, eyes, skin. So, therefore, in that case these senses, that has been the conquered, that is the control over the senses. Whenever the person is having the control over the senses, then in that case definitely he is having creating and the kingdom with the as justifying that he is a king. And indrasya moolam is the vinaya. Conquering the senses is rooted in training and discipline, and therefore, this is coming through the training and discipline. So, how it goes? That is the training and discipline by giving the training to control your indriyas, and therefore, when a manager, when he is able to control his senses, then definitely that will creating the resources in the organization, and the resources in the organization, that will be basis for the artha. And these arthasya moolasya rajyam, so this rajyam is getting the arthas, and the artha is giving you the rightfulness of the righteousness, and therefore rightness is resources, and which will create the happiness. So, we can say by developing and training the manpower or employee in the organization, the organization can create the ethical best practices and by creating the ethical best practices through the resources, the organization can be happy. So, this is about, that is the 5 Chanakya's aphorisms, so that we can understand, that is the how, by with the help of the Chanakya we can create that particular environment where the resources are also generated, there is a ethical behavior, people are trained and developed, as a result of which there is a control, and because the indriyas, when there is a control of the indriyas, there is a relationship is there. So, this purpose now in detailing, this purpose of the management endeavors to generate the prosperity to the stakeholders, the happiness to be based on the ethical righteousness, already I had discussed. Similar lessons are also found in Ramayana and Mahabharata. This includes the Gita, other Vedic literature and Thirukural. Confucius also propagated the idea of an ethically run state in the 6th century BC. So, therefore, in that case what is most important, that is that we have to run the organization ethically. According to Kautilya's, dharma without resources is toothless and resources without dharma is useless. So, therefore, it will be becoming, that is the, if there is no dharma, it is just like a toothless, and if there are no resources, it is the useless. Resources will make ethical conduct or behavior possible and vice versa. The Shubha, goodness to auspiciousness, the Shubha must come first, then the Ayava, gain or the profit. Management must strive to generate resources based on the ethical conduct or the behavior is there. Arthasya Mulyam is the Rajyam. To generate resources you need an enterprise, organization, team or a unit. Resources generated by organizations includes manpower development, as I mentioned, training and development, money, material, methods and markets. Further generation of resources requires the expansion of the kingdom, not by the war, but through the market and product development. Market penetration and diversification strategies are required, and only in that case the artha will be developed. Rajya's Mulam the Indriya Jaya, victory over the senses means control of 5 organs, says eyes, ear, tongue, nose and skin. Only a leader who has conquered the organs of his body would be able to put organizational interest first before his self interest. This also involves control of 6 enemies within: kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha and matsar, desires, anger, greed, arrogance, infatuation and envy. So, also includes the man and harsha, pride and the foolhardiness. So, therefore, Rajya's Mulam in the Indriya Jai, and then he has to control Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mad, Moha and Matsar. So, by controlling his eyes, ear, tongue, nose and skin, so he will be able to control and naturally we can easily understand. When you are able to control your Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mad, Moha, Matsar, then definitely you will be able to control the your vested interest, and as a result of which the people surrounding to you, they will look towards you as an ethical person. The first chapter of the Arthashastra is Vinaya Adhikarikam, our book on the moral training. The consequence of the sense is rooted in discipline and training in the ethics and morals should begin from the childhood. The control of the mind, all experiences such as happiness, sorrow, gains, losses, victory, defeat, hot, cold should be taken with the equanimity, that is the Brahma Bhutan. So, therefore, in that case the person has to be the same in all the given situations. So, by the strengthening the strategies for the interpersonal relationships, that is the Lubadya Mortan Grahavats Bhajan Karamna, then the Muraksha Chandrabudam Yatra Vedam the Panditam, meaning control greedy by money, the arrogant by the submissiveness, the fool by the preaching and the learned by telling him the reality. And therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is in human resource managers from the above sutra is use money to retain, use power to restrain and use truth for the sustainability, and then in that case we will find that is the how it is working. Kshinate sarvadani yagyam homabal kriya nakshetrete, that is a patranabhavyam sarvadehinam, meaning all sacrifices gifts, donation, etc. vanish in their effect after some time, but that which is given to a deserving person survive forever. Because the deserving receiving utilizes the gifts best to the further their chain of the clarity for the welfare of all. Directions for the human resource skills from the above sutra is: please revisit your reward recognition policy R&R, and to make R&R policy effective, the one needs to look at the process by which the appropriate member is getting recommended for R&R. As clearly stated above by the sutra, the objective of R&R should be to reward someone who shall use the reward best for the betterment of himself and others, but not by using it for his ego. So, when we are talking about the role of expression of love and anger, that is the prastabadisham vakyam prabhadavidvisham priyam atma shakti saman kopam yo janati sapaditaha, meaning which means he who talks with reference to context, who knows how to influence people and express his love or anger according to his capacity, is called a pandit. And therefore, in that case, that is the at what time how much anger is to be expressed, those people those who know this, they are really pandit. Important to select people who have the ability to express themselves and knows when to talk, what to talk, test emotional intelligence alongside communication skills, because one who cannot control his anger and express love in accordance to the limits and required situation is unable to maintain the interpersonal relationship. Anger should be expressed in a beautiful way, and the choice of words while you are angry should not be humiliating. That is the way is there. When we talk about the protections of the relations, it is the uparjitanam vietnam tatyaga evahi rakshanam tadagos dardarshanastham parivaha ivamashyam, meaning which means that like it is essential for the bound water to have a little flow for its purity, so it is necessary to donate the part of unwealth for its protection. Direction for human resource skills from the above sutra is: to maintain the relationship, sharing or donation is required. Donations can be of the various forms, wealth or money, or the knowledge is there. And finally, we talk about the be always the presentable, kushalinam dantamalopadinim bhavashinam nishtar bhavashitam cha sauradya chachmete cha shenam vimushchatishe shayadri chakrinah. All the rich and the prosperity those persons, including even Lord Vishnu, if he is also one of those who wear dirty clothes, have filthy teeth, who are glutton, who speak harsh language, and who continues to sleep even after the sunrise is there. So, therefore, in that case, if this type of the habits will be there, even in the God will not be having, that is the blessings on these persons. Put a dress code, establish your work order with use of formal language, henceforth encourage individuals to be neat and clean at all times, at work obey work order, and the timing is there. So, we can say employ loyalty and in sense of trust in organizations in one another, benefiting the interpersonal relationship. This is a human tendency that the first impression is made on the outer appearance, and the person will approach another person whose appearance he finds more suitable for initiation of a interpersonal relationship. Therefore, it has to be very the dress code is to be followed, and a proper formal wearing that will be encouraged. All these will be creating the workplace maturity at the workplace. And Murakshatu Paribhavansha Patrakaksho Dipada Parishuddha Bhinathi Vyakshasholan Adreshanam Kantakam Yatha. So, finally, what we can say, one should cease contact with the fools, regarding them as the biped animals, because they sting us by their senseless speech as though they are piercing as invisible thorn. Directions to human resource managers from the above sutra is: important to retain only intelligent people, since fools most of the times would bring trouble. Hence, it is better to ignore fools, as it will only be waste of resources. However, we can understand that is these as far as the workplace maturity is concerned, our advisors, that they should be having the very strong wisdom. So, therefore, whenever we are taking any decision for the organization, and that decision that will be becoming a very correct, accurate, and ethical decision. This is all about the some glimpses from the Chanakya Sutra about the relationship and the keeping the manpower with you as a team member. Thank you.